Hello and welcome to the Attic and to the first episode of Exiled Discourse, where we discuss all things classic sci-fi and fantasy. I'm your host, Murphy, from Clarisse's Attic, and today we will be discussing Edgar Allan Poe's influence on Jules Verne. While the precise definition of science fiction is still hotly debated by both authors and fanatics alike, science fiction as a whole owes much to Jules Verne. Although many consider Verne to be the father of science fiction as a genre has been around for a lot longer than Verne. Throughout history, there are countless fantastical adventures that present themes found in modern science fiction. Natural events so catastrophic that they wipe out an entire civilization. The use of flying machines that are mentioned in ancient Indian songs and poetry. Travel between the Earth and the Moon, like that adventure presented by Lucian of Samosata. Or travel to other planets, like one of the adventures found in the Arabian Nights. Even between the 1600s and 1800s, authors found themselves writing stories that we would consider science fiction. Notable authors such as Francis Bacon, Margaret Cavendish, Jonathan Swift, Ludwig Holberg, Louis-Sébastien Mercier, Nicolas-Admé Rétif, Giacomo Casanova. Then in 1818, Mary Shelley presented her renowned work, Modern Prometheus, or Frankenstein. So Verne was not the first to write what he would call a scientific novel, not by a long shot. He was the first, however, to write almost exclusively in the genre, and unlike other authors of his immediate time, he put a great deal of effort into his romantic stories, not simply the specifics of the science. It might help us to recognize that Verne was not simply a student of geology, Latin, Greek, and machinery, but he was a lover of drama. He was personally acquainted with some of the greatest writers of his time, like Victor Hugo, and the Dumas, both the father and the son. The Dumas actually procured Verne a job as a secretary of the Théâtre Lyrique. The Lyric Theatre. Verne published plays and short stories before he was finally introduced to Edgar Allan Poe's writings. Despite Verne living as a contemporary of Poe, Verne was not aware of his writings until 1854, 5 years after Poe's death. Poe's The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, that tells of Pym's sailing to a far-off, mysterious island of Tsalal, particularly caught Verne's attention. At only 11 years old, Verne himself tried to join a ship's crew heading to the West Indies before his father caught them before they left the port. Poe's adventurous stories are clearly evident in Verne's adventurous epics throughout his career. In Poe's The Unparalleled Adventure of One Hans Pfaall, the ballast maker, Hans Pfaall, fashions an advanced balloon by which he travels to the moon and meets the men who live there. It is no wonder that only 5 years after Verne read the stories of Edgar Allan Poe, he began his research for his scientific novels. In 1863, Verne published 5 Weeks in a Balloon. The very next year, Verne published both his novel Journey to the Center of the Earth and an article on Poe's The Unparalleled Adventure of One Hans Pfaall in the literary magazine Musée des Familles. And in 1865, he published From the Earth to the Moon. The inspiration, in tandem with H.G. Wells' The First Men in the Moon, behind Georges Méliès' A Trip to the Moon in 1902. Throughout the rest of Verne's career, Poe's influence is evident. Near the end of his career in 1897, Verne even published a sequel to Poe's The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, called The Ice Sphinx. Although Verne's classical and scientific training prepared him to write the adventurous romantic novels that he did, he clearly took inspiration from Edgar Allan Poe. Who would have thought that we have Jules Verne's fascinating science fiction because of Poe? Hope you learned something today. What are some of your favorite novels by Verne or Poe? Also, what are some other authors of science fiction or fantasy that you would like me to cover in another video? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoy all things classic sci-fi and fantasy and you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Again, I'm Murphy from Clarisse's Attic, and I will see you next time on Exiled Duke's Discourse.
Thank you for calling. Please leave a message. If you would like to leave a message, press 1. Your service has been temporarily disconnected.